Some Utah fans called it tampering. Some Cowboy fans called it cheating. Some BYU fans didn't know what to think, so they just had a bit of a laugh. Yet they would not have the last laugh, as Mike Gundy said, hold my beer and watch me dip into the NCAA free agency market and give me a 2-for-1 special right out of the Coug and Ute backyard.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Amazon Fire Stick TV 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox without a console necessary. Head on over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Meanwhile, we're going to shift into the conversation that has naturally been one of the most popular in the Big 12, and that was Justin Kirkland being acquired by BYU. Now, a lot of this was started by Utah fans throwing a hissy fit about how there had been tampering happen because why would somebody choose BYU over Utah, yada, yada, yada. And, of course, Oklahoma State country was not exactly happy about it. Whenever you're having some tampering going on, every time it involves your players, of course, you're going to feel some sort of way. But at the end of the day, Benny Tonga and Mike Gundy were making some things happen. And we ended up being the winners because we went to the state of Utah and got a 2-for-1 special, including a BYU player. The 6'5", 240-pound quarterback turned linebacker is now going to be a tight end at Oklahoma State. Carson Suesue is a Cowboy. So Justin Kirkland goes to BYU. We take a 6'5", 240-pound linebacker, and we bring him to Oklahoma State. Now, this isn't your traditional quarterback turned linebacker that we're going to establish into a tight end. This does make sense. Oklahoma State Central Arkansas transfer, 6'6", 250-pound tight end Jordan Owens has left after the spring, so we had to kind of fill that gap. We were able to do that, and Carson Suesue, who did throw for almost 3,300 yards in high school, almost 40 touchdowns, just a hair over 11 interceptions. He also ran for over 700 yards. So his capability was very visible on the football field. He turned down Tennessee, Utah, and obviously went to BYU before making his decision on Oklahoma State. This is also a young man who dealt with the 2-year mission thing. And as we're going to see the emergence of Nuku Mafi, what that could potentially look like. Now, the benefit here is he was just participating in spring. Sometimes when you get guys off of a mission, it takes them a little bit to get kind of back into the game speed. And perhaps Carson is going to take a little bit of time, but nonetheless, he does have some of that with BYU. He did get to participate in the spring. He made some plays. So this should be a good time. And again, while Mike Gundy was kind of pulling a fast one and experimenting with what is basically the new form of free agency, this is a trade. We give you a guy, you give us a guy. And then while we were in the state of Utah, we took a trip down to Utah State and decided to snag another 6'5" tight end with grabbing Grayson Brousseau, 220 pounds. He was a freshman at Utah State this previous season. He did play in that Max 4 so he could retain his red shirt of eligibility. And this was a 3-star prospect who picked BYU over Colorado State, UNLV, Air Force, and others. He was a 4-year starter, and he caught 92 passes for 1,151 yards and 11 touchdowns in his high school career before going to Utah State. Now, obviously, with some of those offers, he could have gone to UNLV or Colorado State or an Air Force. But there was something intriguing about Utah State, and now Oklahoma State has the Utah State tight end coach on the roster. And as we all know, we already picked up the other Utah State tight end, Will Money, in the offseason. So this is 2 Utah State Aggies that are going to come help with the former coach already on the roster. And you much like Carson Suesue, who could have chosen many options, not to mention the fact that Carson was a standout basketball player and an all-state volleyball player. I don't know if anybody has a fun time looking at volleyball. You might if you go check out Carson, because the top of a volleyball net, right? I couldn't find videos and clips or film of him playing basketball, but you can find them playing volleyball. And I don't know what the top of that net is, but his vertical is about 1.5 feet above that net. So he's got to be in the 35-ish, 36-inch 40 or vertical. So athleticism obviously is what allowed him to go to BYU and have a lot of success early on, even if it was in a little bit of a transition from a positional standpoint. Now Oklahoma State gets another tight end to join the fold. Clearly, this is going to be a position that we're looking to utilize. And if you have Jordan Owens coming in the portal and then leaving after spring, the utilization there probably wasn't going to be ideal for him. And now we're clearly looking for another tight end to add to this room. The emergence of Josh Ford last year was absolutely phenomenal. You have Quentin Stewart coming back. We just talked about Will Money coming over earlier before spring from Utah State as well. So this is yet another phenomenal addition. But I think another benefit here is it indicates the emphasis that we're going to have on the quarterback position. Tight end traditionally is the best outlet for a quarterback, especially a young quarterback that's trying to learn a system. You have to have the safety valves, and the safety valves are usually going to be tight ends or running backs. It's a lot easier to disguise a tight end as opposed to a running back, because the running back's going to go out to the flats and it's going to be pretty visible from a defensive perspective. At least the tight end, he can mix and match. He can do some run blocking. He can do some pass blocking. He can go out and he can run routes. He can get in motion. He can change the sets for the offense to numerically understand what the defense is trying to do. So there's so many things that a tight end can do, but that's typically beneficial to a younger quarterback. Now, of course, every quarterback would like a phenomenal safety blanket to throw to, but I think this is yet another indication that Oklahoma State quarterbacks under Haas Haney and Zane Flores are likely athletically more gifted than we've seen in quite some time, but there are going to be some limitations. And when you do have some limitations, partially offensive line issues, partially just understanding the playbook, or having a dual quarterback system, you're going to have safety valves. And we already have seen some of the movement in the running back position, and we've seen 2 quarterbacks leave Oklahoma State. So to me, this is an emphasis on the fact that we're still going to be figuring some things out offensively, but we know that whichever quarterback gets the bulk of the snaps, we've got to have a reliable safety valve to help him in the understanding of not only the offense, but just as the course of the season progresses. The more you understand the route concepts and what the defense is trying to do, perhaps the less you'll have to utilize the tight end. And Oklahoma State hasn't necessarily had a rich tradition of tight end usage, but clearly this was a position that we knew we wanted to target before the spring, and now we're still bringing in more tight ends, especially one with the upside of Carson Suesue. And we understand that the Utah State connection with the tight end coach, DJ, that's already in Stillwater, just got a little bit bigger, which means we likely could look forward to the tight end position finally being a little bit more of an integral piece of the Cowboy offense moving forward for 2 quarterbacks who have yet to throw a pass in Division I football. Speaking of football, it's almost time to get the football tickets. But before you do that, you have to remember that the NBA playoff action is upon us. Every bucket, every stop, every dunk, it feels great, but it's not the same if you're not in the arena. This is where Game Time comes to help you. You can be a part of it without the stress of the last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy for you to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app go down the closer you get to tip-off. And their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. With that up to 60% savings, this is not just for sports. You can also find a priority for concerts, comedy, theater, other events near you. The all-in pricing means there's no surprise fees to check out, so you see what you're going to pay before you pay it. Take the guesswork out of you buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create that account and redeem that code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today because it is last-minute tickets. Lowest prices guaranteed. Oklahoma State had a disastrous season last year. Nobody's going to argue that. But there always was some argument in regards to the talent. And as you've seen most recently, Oklahoma State's got an entirely new roster. We're one of the top 5 teams in most transfer portal acquisitions. I think we're number 2 in the Big 12 right now, right behind West Virginia, who's brought in right around 40 dudes. Oklahoma State's around 36, 37. Now, of course, like Mike Gundy mentioned, some of these guys are going to get to Stillwater and realize they don't exactly fit into the system like they thought they would, or perhaps the buy-in is a little bit less than desired, or there's so many different moving parts to the transfer portal, right? That's the only downside, is you do lose some continuity within the locker room. And that might be the biggest obstacle to the season. But for anybody out there that was questioning whether Oklahoma State had talent, I think the NFL draft is an extension of the fact that we definitely had the talent, because we matched the number 1 team in the Big 12 with the most draftable players. I know 4 is not a lot, okay? But when the top teams in the Big 12 have 4, and the last place team in the Big 12 also has 4, not to mention the Brennan Presleys and the Trey Ruckers and the Dalton Coopers of the world. To me, it's just more of an emphasis on the fact that coaching and complacency and laziness and all of that was the biggest factor this previous season. Do I absolutely love some of the turnover we've had, even post-spring? No, I don't. I think from a numerical advantage perspective, you would like to have either Haas Haney or Zane Flores, knowing what you know now that Milo Ake-Smith and Garrett Rangel are going to be gone. In an ideal world, it would have been better to get them the most snaps physically possible. Same could be said with Justin Kirkland. So there is going to be an argument to some degree about how many snaps we divvied up in spring and how unnecessary some of those snaps were, because we could have given more snaps to other dudes. But nonetheless, talent was not the problem. Complacency, laziness was. When Ollie Gordon gets drafted, yes, he did slide significantly, going from a first-round projection before the season started to a 6th-round pick. That's not a great look, but Nick Martin is a great look to go in line with the other linebackers that are still rocking in the NFL that went to Oklahoma State. The real question is, who do we have on this upcoming ball club that are draft individuals? Other than Brian McCoy, coming over from Akron, he already had a 5th to 7th round draft grade coming in, so you would expect him to kind of fill in somewhat seamlessly to that Nick Martin role, and if he does do that, he should stay in that range, potentially make his draft ability a little bit better. J.K. Johnson has the ability. What will it turn out to be? Jalen Davies seems to be absolutely killing it thus far, so he could be somebody from the Oklahoma State draft board that's taken pretty quickly. It is going to be a new crop of individuals that we're not really used to. And that's something that we have to get used to as well as a fan base. Seeing the guy develop for 4 or 5 years and then absolutely burst on the scene and put himself in the NFL draft conversation, those days are kind of few and far between. So now it's going to be a hodgepodge of guys in the portal. But just like we mentioned Brian McCoy having the 5th round draft grade coming over, you have guys like Brendan Rawls who don't know what we're going to get out of him because he hasn't been playing football for a very long time. Same with Malik Charles. Even though if you looked at the spring game, Malik Charles was absolutely all over the place. Even on top of that, Trip White, the Ole Miss linebacker transfer, the common consensus has been he is every bit as advertised, if not more than the advertisement. So you let me know down in the comment section for all of us, all my fine YouTube folks, who do you think is going to be the next position guy that is drafted into the NFL? And do you think that it could potentially be a returning Cowboy? Like coming into the season, I think Talon Shetron would have fit that bill, but obviously he's dealing with yet another injury. Could Cam Abshire absolutely blossom in 1 year? Possibly, but I think he might be a little bit more developmental. Christian Fitzpatrick, however, from Marshall, he could be a draft-eligible conversation by the end of the season. Regardless, I think that there's enough talent on the Oklahoma State roster, given how many guys were drafted and how many guys were picked up in unsigned free agent deals, to make the understanding even bigger now that coaching staff was a problem. And Mike Gundy, whether it was forced or not, did end up doing the right thing, and we brought this new staff in. And even though I don't agree with all of the individuals that have decided to leave, or we were, told they should explore the portal, at the end of the day, you have to appreciate the fact that this staff is looking at a 3-win team and making a designation that we have to do significantly more. And the benefits is clearly we saw stuff after the spring game or during the spring game that as a coaching staff, we realize that we still have some deficiencies in certain areas. And one of those clearly is going to be the defensive line. We know the offensive line is still a little bit of a problem area. Not all of the names that have jumped in the portal have been officially released. Some of them are going to go down a level. So it could be kind of convoluted from here into the end of fall. But nonetheless, D-line, O-line. I mean, they're the most popular positions for anybody to get scored away. But you bring in, somebody like Michael Diotta from Virginia that could man the defensive tackle area. This defense is going to be pretty exciting. And again, for any of us that are not necessarily pleased with all of the portal names, you have to respect that Mike Gundy is allowing the staff to conduct things the way they see fit. Now we've seen the contracts coming out. Is Doug Meacham worth the same as Casey Dunn? I don't know. But we do know that Casey Dunn was getting overpaid. So perhaps Doug Meacham is right on where he should be, 1.1-ish million. Paying Todd Grantham $1.3 million. I mean, that's a lot, right? Especially for Oklahoma State. There's no kidding ourselves. We don't traditionally pay our assistant coaches quite that much, but we needed a head coach of the defense. So the conversations about the Justin Kirklands of the world taking their talents elsewhere should almost be emphasized that it's purposeful, it's strategic. Now, there obviously is a big gamble here. Because when you get rid of the Garrett Rangels and the Justin Kirklands and the Gabe Brown type guys that have been bought in and bleeding orange for a few years now, it does make it a little bit more difficult. And the downside is if you have any of laziness or complacency, I know words are still hard for me, it probably is a little bit more difficult to have a team build something and bond together and learn to fight through adversity if they're all just essentially mercenaries. But it is what it is. We are where we are. And then we have seen teams that have completely rebuilt off of the transfer portal. I still am a firm believer that you have to have a little bit of an even mixture. There's going to be times that you have to overload on the portal, and there's going to be times that you could be able to rely a little bit more on some of the guys that have been in your program for a few years. But nonetheless, talent was not an issue. I think the draft showcased that Oklahoma State had plenty of talent. So coaching was the issue. And this will be the beauty of this upcoming season is now that we don't know half of the roster's names, or at least we're not over familiarized with them, now it's going to come down to almost strictly coaching. Because you can bring in 35, 40 dudes, but if they're not in the right spots or you can't get the most production out of them, then it's kind of a moot point. So this is definitely going to be a little bit of a test season for Oklahoma State. But I have to admit, I'm kind of excited about it. Because if you're going to have the rookie minicamp OTAs and you're going to get people down to cuts, and then after you get people down to cuts, you're still in the transfer portal and you're still trying to bring in more acquisitions, it clearly showed you in the spring game, all right, we might be good at X, Y, and Z, but we're not good here. We're not good here. And this is not going to be good enough. So maybe the evaluation of the returning players isn't getting the appreciation that it should be. But at the same time, when you have a 3-win season, you have to make these drastic changes. And we have done that. And for that reason, I think this should be an exciting time. We have talent. We had some talent waiting. I mean, Malawake Smith going to Ole Miss. I think that's great for him. Hope it works out. I think it's great for Justin Kirkland to end up at BYU. Because again, some of these dudes were getting the bulk of the quarterback 1 snaps or the defensive linebackers 1 snaps or DT 1 snaps. So some of the individuals that were getting first string snaps throughout spring, a lot of them are gone. So it's going to be completely unknown, but it's also kind of exciting when you're paying Doug Meacham and Todd Grantham big time money, they have to produce. And for that reasoning, I'm okay with some of the issues with some of the guys leaving. Do I love it? No. Do I think that it takes away from some of the connection you have to the game that we all grew up loving in the university? I do. But winning cures a lot of things. And this coaching staff is clearly on a mission. and they're going to acquire the roster they feel necessary to do that, to win and win immediately. And for that reason, it's hard not to get excited. It's hard for you not to get excited about the potential monetary gains that the NBA playoffs can provide you. Game Time can get you tickets, and FanDuel can help you get more with the winnings. FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way for you to get in on the NBA action. Right now, new FanDuel customers can place a $5 bet and get $250 back in bonus bets if your $5 hauler is a winner. You're going to love how FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving deep into the player props. From three-pointers, steals, assists, dunks, FanDuel has so many ways for you to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into same-game parlays for the biggest chances to win. Do not miss out on your opportunity by going on over to FanDuel.com today to claim your $250 back in bonus bets if your first $5 shot is a winner. Head on over to FanDuel.com today to capitalize on your monetary gains. The Cowgirls are entering the postseason with the number 4 seed in the Big 12, which, given how up and down the season's been, I think a lot of us would accept that. And the Cowboys and Cowgirls both are winners of 4 in a row, 4 of their last 6. And the Cowboys still have a couple series to go. We got to go to Waco to take on Baylor. Then we got to come back home to finish the series and season with a series against Arizona State. So the Cowboys still have a lot of work to do, but currently sitting right around halfway mark of the Big 12, right around 8th place. We're seemingly going to have a shot at the Big 12 tournament. And we were just talking about talent not being an issue and it being a coaching thing. I think the same is in baseball. Talent is not the problem. We have coaching deficiencies. Now, do those deficiencies start at the top and work their ways down, or much like Mike Gundy was letting Casey Dunn and some of these other coaches get away with too much because they were too close? Perhaps that is the difficulty in baseball. We're not 100% sure what the issue is, but when you beat Dallas Baptist, it kind of gave everybody the right feeling, and then you dropped 2 or 3 to Cincinnati, so we got right back down to earth, and now you're kind of back to cruising again. Seems as though the bats have the ability to come alive. It's just having the consistency to make something happen, because baseball is in a situation where we're going to have to make a pretty decent run. And we're just right around 500 in the conference, and we're a little under 500 overall. So we've got some work left to do. But whenever you're batting like we have been, the pitching's been decent, more or less, this season. And perhaps the management on the mound issues aren't all Rob Walton. Perhaps the stories of Josh Holliday being more in control than maybe some of us had anticipated, maybe that is part of the problem. But nonetheless, we get a roll in the postseason play here. And the Cowgirls get to start postseason play in the Big 12 tournament with number 5 seed Arizona State. So the 4-5 matchup, always pretty intriguing. The emergence of the health of Riley Crandall late could be a absolutely massive factor. Katie Coots has been a good addition on the season, but Ruby Malin is the one that's probably going to lead us most of the way in the postseason. But you're going to have multiple arms. You have to have multiple ladies that can get it done in the batting department. Again, both diamond sports are very up and down, very inconsistent. The Cowgirls are still ranked number 23 in the country, so, they're not nearly as downtrodden as the Cowboys. But this is the beauty of postseason. In a lot of sports, when you have postseason play, it's all about getting hot at the right time. And with both Cowgirl softball and Cowboy baseball winning 4 straight, maybe we're both getting hot at the right time. It'll be an exciting time for the Cowgirls to see what they can do. Shout out to the Lady Red Raiders and Texas Tech winning the regular season Big 12 tournament, or Big 12. Now we have the tournament championship to crown. Hopefully the Cowgirls can get in on the mix, much like the Cowboys. We didn't know what we were going to get out of baseball this year. West Virginia being good, not much of a surprise. West Virginia being good with a former Cowboy, it's a little frustrating. KU being this good, nobody saw that coming. But their fan base is rallying around them, and they're having a ton of fun. So it'll be exciting to see what KU can do in the postseason because both of those teams have definitely done enough to make some noise. But the Cowboys have the talent. They have the ability. If Josh Holiday would just not get in his own way, we might have an opportunity here in the Cowgirls with Riley Crandall kind of being back and healthy and getting into a little bit more of a rhythm. That could be a major determining factor on what happens in the postseason for both ball clubs. But thankfully, Cowboys baseball's kind of riding the ship, and we're going to make the Big 12 tournament. And all you got to do is get there. And if you're good enough, when you get there and you have a deep enough staff, which I believe that we do, then you can make some crazy things happen. Sometimes postseason play is designed for teams that have a lot of back half of the roster kind of talent. It's just a matter of the coaching. Is the coaching going to keep getting in the way, or are we going to find ways to allow this ball club to flourish? Meanwhile, Kenny Gasky's in good spirits, as he should be. It'll be an exciting time. But at least both sports, baseball and softball, are kind of getting hot at the right time and kind of turning this thing around. There is still some trepidation behind, claiming that they're championship level, but 4 seed's not bad. And if the Cowboys were to get an 8 seed, that's manageable. It's all about getting hot at the right time. And it seems as though we might be both doing that. Anywho, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go, folks. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listener on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor. Hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. That's okay, too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there. You're everything that makes this thing go. I appreciate you. Do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave a review. Alrighty, y'all. Later, my taters.